What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Diego Collie Football Show. And we are back, and we're going to be previewing the teams in the AFC. And today we're going to be starting with the AFC South. We had week one of preseason football this weekend. It is what it is. I attended the Seahawks-Cowboys game, gave it a good half, and decided to exit after that. The preseason is the preseason. I'm not going to come on here and tell you I watched all of every single preseason game, every single team. I couldn't tell you what happened in most of these games. I was checking in on them, checking for kind of standout performers. I watched the guys I wanted to watch. I watched the Raiders game. I watched Fernando. I watched a little bit of the Browns game to check in on that quarterback battle. The preseason is just not – it's not much just for the fan, the average fan. And even for someone trying to watch the games, it's not very interesting. It doesn't really keep you held in. It's not captivating. It's a roster battle for guys, but there's not even a whole lot in there you can really break down. If a guy performs well in the preseason, great for him, but that doesn't change how he's performing in practice every day. The preseason isn't the thing that kind of really matters to a massive scale. For the most part, coaches have their decisions made. They see what they see in practice every day. How you perform in one preseason game, which is one, say, eighth of what they've done in camp, I don't think it really impacts much. So I'm not going to be covering that too much. If something big happens, we'll talk about it. But we're going to go right into covering the AFC South, which I have a very, very good team in the AFC South, and we're going to talk about them first. That is the Houston Texans. I have the Houston Texans going 13-4. I think the Houston Texans can win the AFC. They might even be my pick to win the AFC when we predict the entire season because of what they have on the defensive side of the ball. And you've heard people talk about it. This team was arguably the best defense in football last year. I still have them behind the Seahawks, but this is a defense that returned all 11 starters. They didn't lose a guy. And an offense that severely underperformed, an offense that arguably held them from making the AFC Championship last year. And I think that's why they have so much room to grow in that sense. Last year, they got bounced in the divisional round to the Patriots. And that was with C.J. Stroud having one of the worst playoff performances of all time. And that's why people are – the only really real reason that people can be low on the Texans is because of C.J. Stroud and because of the offense and because of the way they played in that playoff game. And I think this is the perfect spot to buy on the Texans. The Texans have an advantage over everyone in their division. I mean, I think that if you're looking at teams in their division, you have the Colts, you have the Titans, you have the Jaguars. I think they should beat the Titans in both games, beat the Colts in both games. You can maybe say a split with the Jags, just the Jags that played them tough last year. But how this team plays, it is dependent on the quarterback. And I'd say the quarterback is more depending on how far this team can go. If C.J. Stroud is even what he was last year, this team's still going to win 11-plus games. And what he was not a very good quarterback. If you're going back to him in his first season compared to him last year, he was bad last year. And I don't think that's not being overlooked. Over 3,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Not a great ratio. But if he can just – I'm not even saying going back to that full rookie season form from C.J. Stroud. Just find a little bit of a middle ground from the rookie year to what he did last year. In that rookie year, he threw for 4,000 yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Take care of the ball a little more. Throw for some more yards. I mean, just even it out a little bit. This team is going to go far. It's going to go very, very far, which is why I think the floor is very high for this team and the ceiling is even higher. This could be a team that we're looking at going into the playoffs and going into potentially the Super Bowl as a Super Bowl favorite, arguably, in the AFC. I would not be surprised if this is the best team in the AFC this year. And that's just looking at the defense. I mean, when you look at my X factors for them, on the defensive side, I just have the health. There's not really one position where I'm like, this position has to perform. They have to show up. They have to play above their level to unlock their true potential. That's not how I see it. This is a stacked defense. The defensive line is absolutely stacked. They signed Jadeveon Clowney as edge depth for Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Jadeveon Clowney's subbing in, a guy that can get you 10-plus sacks, especially in that role. He's not playing every down. You have Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter. They bring in Reed Blankenship from the Eagles as kind of a depth safety. Jalen Petrie plays the nickel corner. Aziz Al-Shair. This is an absolutely stacked defense. And a team, it's not like they have guys who need to learn the scheme. It's everyone's coming back. D'Amico Ryans is the guy I really believe in at the head coaching position, which is another reason why I believe in this team. I believe they have a great head coach behind them, a defensive-minded head coach. This is a team that can really, really follow the Seahawks model. And they just need guys to stay healthy on defense, which isn't a crazy ask. It's not like these are injury-prone guys. It's just that's the only thing that I can see bringing this defense down is guys getting injured, and that's kind of out of their control. But if these guys stay healthy, this is the top 3 defense, if not the best defense in the entire league next year. On the offensive side, I've talked about it a little bit. CJ Stroud. They just need you to be average, CJ. We saw last year, Sam Darnold. Just take care. I mean, Sam Darnold didn't take care of the ball in the regular season either, but save them when they need you to. Just steady the ship, man. Just steady the ship. Be a league average quarterback. Just navigate the offense. Just don't lose your team games is kind of really what I'm trying to say. Don't be a net negative to your team. I understand you're a top 5 pick and you're coming in, has that electric rookie season, kind of can be the changing of the franchise. This guy can change the franchise. That's not really how it's worked out. He's shown flashes of that. They're not asking you to do that this year. They're asking you just to be okay and to not lose them games. And if he can do that, and if he can even return to some of that rookie year form, this is a Super Bowl favorite, in my opinion. Like this, CJ Stroud does not have it's pressure, but it shouldn't be seen as that much pressure, to be honest. And I think that his situation around him is getting better. If Nico Collins can stay on the field, that's a big plus. He's had some troubles in the past. He wasn't able to play in that playoff game, which is a big loss. I mean, he's their number 1 receiver, one of the best receivers in football. They're getting Tank Dell back, a guy who didn't play all of last year. He was electric in his rookie season and obviously had that gruesome knee injury in the playoff game against the Chiefs. Getting him back to play in the slot. And they have the 2 rookies from last year, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, 2 guys that are growing in another year of experience. Last year was tough when Collins would go down because you'd say, we have these 2 talented guys, but they're both rookies. It's hard to really rely on these 2 guys. And they both had their moments. Another year for them to grow, another offseason with them and CJ Stroud can only be a plus. The running game is another big factor on the offensive side of the ball because last year they're kind of waiting. Is Joe Mixon going to come back? When are we going to get Joe Mixon? How much are we going to get out of Joe Mixon? And Joe Mixon never came back. So they were stuck waiting around. They were playing everyone that they could at the running back spot. And they go out and they get David Montgomery, which a veteran guy that he's bringing the hard-nosed football. They still have Woody Marks to mix in there. But neither of those guys are going to be expected to take on a big 20-25 carry per game type of role. And that's going to help both of them. They have Dalton Schultz at tight end. This is a very, very well-rounded team. If the offensive line can be decent, I mean, they drafted Keelan Rutledge. He's probably going to start at center. This is a team with all the tools. They're not relying on big new guys to come in and make these big splashes. The defense is going to be there. They're going to be a top 2 defense in football. I mean, them and the Seahawks are my 2 favorite defenses in the entire league. And it just comes down to, can CJ Stroud just steer the ship? Don't do too much. Do what he needs to do. And not lose his team games. I mean, that's quite literally what it comes down to. Can CJ Stroud just be some sort of mix between, can he be better than what he was last year? I'm not asking for him to be an all-pro quarterback. If he does, this team's really, really dangerous. Just don't do what you did last year, and don't lose your team games, and don't he needs to lower the turnovers. And I'm just saying in big moments too. You kind of saw again, this team, a lot of people are saying this team could be this year's Seahawks. It's all there. I mean, a former first-round quarterback, people are kind of lost belief in. With Stroud, it's come a little bit sooner than with Darnold, as it took over time, and he had to sit down for a little bit. But just back up on the turnovers, especially when it matters. You know what I mean? I mean, you saw Darnold turn the ball over as much as anyone did in the NFL last year in the regular season, and in the playoffs, he didn't turn the ball over once. Stroud can do that if he's putting up also the touchdown numbers that Darnold did. This team is going to be really good. I mean, I consider making them 14-3. When you look at the schedule, there's points when it's not the easiest schedule in the world at all. I mean, especially you start with the Bills. That's kind of a coin flip game to me that I think they win. You have the Bengals. That's a losable game. The Cowboys. Those are good offenses. In those games, it's kind of like, can your offense give you something there? Because it's going to be hard to completely shut down those teams. But other than that, I mean, you play the AFC North. It's not the greatest division. You have a game against the Browns in there. You play the NFC East. There's games there's not a whole lot of losable games there. At the end of the year, you have Philly in week 16, Green Bay week 17. you might lose one of those two. I mean, I consider making this team 14-3. This team's going to be really, really good. I think they're a contender to win the AFC, and I think looking at the success and failure, it's a failure if they don't win this division. They've won it the last few years. D'Amico Ryals kind of established that culture, and a successful appearance. I'm not saying this is a Super Bowl or bust type of year. The core of their team is young. If you see an AFC Championship appearance out of this team, it's really cement themselves, to really see growth from CJ Stroud, to show that he is your guy in the future and he is someone that you can grow with as a franchise. That's a plus. AFC Championship appearance, potentially a Super Bowl, show that you have the right guy at the helm. You have the right guy at head coach. Now you know you have the right guy at quarterback potentially. You have Will Anderson on defense. This is a young, really, really dangerous team in the future, and this could be the year that they really take a step, honestly. Up next, I have a team that I think is going to take another step this year, but that might not necessarily show in the record, and that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars have a really, really tough schedule. So when you see the record at 10-7, this isn't an indictment on the Jaguars. I like where the Jaguars are at. I like the connection that Liam Cohn has made with Trevor Lawrence. I'm expecting that to only grow. This is a team that won 13 games last year. And quite honestly, I think that there is regression there. There's candidates for regression with this team. They obviously, they leave the sour taste in their mouth with how they ended their season against the Bills in a game that, quite honestly, they probably should have won. They definitely should have won that game. But this is a very well-rounded team. Last year, they were the 6th best offense in the league, 8th best defense, and points scored and points allowed. I just think that they're going to come back down to earth a little bit. And I'm not necessarily saying that they're going to miss the playoffs. It's all going to come crashing down, because I really do believe in Liam Cohn, and I really do believe in Trevor Lawrence. But it's hard to follow up a year like that. And sometimes when you have a season like that in a head coach's first year, it's kind of, you were a year early. That's not really who you are. They caught lightning in a bottle, and now you kind of have to start to build up your reputation as a team, kind of, if that makes sense. So I'm looking at it. This isn't a kind of a make or break year for any of them, quite honestly. I think they know that Trevor Lawrence is their quarterback. They know Liam Cohn's their head coach. Success, in my opinion, is getting over the hump and winning a playoff game, because the way that they ended last season was very disappointing. They can make it to the playoffs, whether they're in the wild card or they do win the division, which I don't think they will. Win a playoff game, that's a win, just to show progress. Because even if you don't win 13 games like you did last year, if you make the playoffs and win a game, get yourself to that divisional round, even if you get to the AFC Championship, if you had to bye, that's a positive for the momentum of the franchise. I feel like we're missing the playoffs and kind of losing all that momentum that they built up last year, and losing the magic that they caught last year. And with that, it comes to my offensive X factors. We know Trevor Lawrence is good. Can Trevor Lawrence be great? Has he reached his ceiling? This guy's the guy that was the number 1 overall pick. He has all the tools. He's a guy that people expected to come in and kind of light the league on fire. And he's had his ups and he's had his downs. So who is he? I mean, last year it's his first year in a new system. It took some time for them to mesh a little bit. They started off slow, but at the end of the year, I mean, they were humming. They won 8 straight games, and then they lose that playoff game to Buffalo to kind of end the season on a very low note after they had some high highs. Can he follow the season? He threw for 4,000 yards last year, 30 touchdowns. Can he follow that up? Can he get to that 4,300 yard kind of mark and really be in that MVP candidate zone that he's never really been in his career? He's never really lived up to that number 1 overall pick hype. Can this be the year that happens for Trevor Lawrence? I'm not sure. I think he has it in him. I have question marks kind of about the receiver room, though. People think this receiver room is a big plus. I'm not necessarily super there on that. Brian Thomas Jr., who is he going to be? Obviously, he has that massive rookie year. Last year is one of the biggest fantasy busts of anyone. They trade for Jacoby Myers. He was a positive, and they just have a lot of average receivers. They don't really have a number 1 go-to receiver, and that's kind of, I like depth, but you need to have a guy that stands out above that depth. And they have Parker Washington, who's put up good stats, but they just don't have a sole guy that I really love at the receiver position. I'm not sure what we're going to see out of Travis Hunter. It seems like his role on offense is diminishing. They're just going to try to get him to be a plus player on one side of the ball, and that's going to start on defense. And who knows, maybe he has a lot of success and they can work him into the offense, kind of give him some packages. There's no reason to run him out there every series, especially with what they do have. They have good receivers. I just don't think they have a great receiver. I'm not saying it's a negative about the offense. I just don't think they have one guy that really stands out above the rest. which is, not the worst situation in the world, but it stops you from getting that elite level. And it kind of hurts your quarterback in some moments when he wants to find a guy he can really go to. So I'm not sure we're going to see much of Travis. I think they'll ease him into it. They don't have to throw him out there week one. And if he's showing he can handle the workload at cornerback, they'll say, hey, we'll give you some plays at receiver. But that's kind of what it seems like coming out of camp. They didn't really do much in the draft, honestly. They didn't really have guys that I thought they could impact right away. They lost Devin Lloyd, who was kind of the heartbeat of their defense. They lost Travis Etienne. They didn't really gain much, quite honestly, when you're looking at their offensive moves and what they did in the draft. But this is a team that is pretty young. It's not a team that relied on old guys last season. And I think they're going to continue that kind of leap to make the playoffs and potentially win a game. This is a team that's going to be a tough out all season long. But when I have them at 10-7, let's go through the schedule a little bit because it is tough. And going through it, I was like, wow, this is a kind of a gauntlet of games. So they opened up with Cleveland. That's a game that I think they should win. It's a tough defense, though. And then they have Denver and New England back-to-back. It's the two AFC finalists. Cincinnati, Philly. Cincinnati's going to be a tough out. That's going to be a really good offense. Philly, a top-end team in the NFC. You have the Texans in week 6. Just looking at their first 6 games of the year, they're maybe favored over the Bengals. They're going to be favored over the Browns, but that's a very, very tough start. And sometimes when you have those starts to the season, you can bury yourself and put you in a point where you got to really play catch up. That's just a very tough way to start the year. You have the Colts divisional game you can win at the Ravens on Thursday night. That's not an easy game. Titans, you can win that. Giants, you can win that. Titans, you can win that. At the Bears, that's another game that you're probably not going to be favored in. Steelers, you can win that. At the Texans, at the Cowboys, 2 games you probably won't be favored. And you end with the Commanders and the Colts. So the end of the schedule is a bit lighter than the start, but they're going to have a gauntlet to start the year, and they're going to have to just stay afloat and hope that they can stay around that 500 mark. And when you get towards the end of these games, when you have the Commanders, you have the Colts, you have the Steelers, you have the Titans, you need to be able to win those games and get yourself back above water and just claw into the playoffs. Because I'm not saying it's not a failure to go 10-7. If the Jaguars make the playoffs this year, I think that's seen as a win in the second year of the Liam Cohn era in Jacksonville. And I think that's what they'll do. I think they have enough talent. I think the coaching and the quarterback play is at a high enough level, but it is definitely not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy sledding for this team. And that's kind of just what happens when you win the division. Looking at the X factors, I talked about Trevor Lawrence. On the defensive side, I think it's the pass rush. If you look at who they have, this is a big year for Joshua Hines-Allen, and Trayvon Walker, one of the most forgotten number 1 overall picks of all time. Can he be an impact plus type of guy? Because you have Eric Armstead in the middle. Other than that, you don't have kind of a whole lot, to be honest. And they're going to need a guy like Trayvon Walker to kind of try to be a blue chip edge. Because if you have another high level edge on the opposite side of Joshua Hines-Allen, that gives you a kind of a nasty pass rushing duo. And in the secondary, I'm curious to see what Travis Hunter looks like, quite honestly. I don't know. I mean, last year was weird. Obviously, he got injured. It'll be interesting to see him playing a full workload as an NFL corner. Because he's still on the smaller side. I mean, you have smaller corners all the time, but he's still kind of built as more of a coverage guy. It's not like he's a Devin Witherspoon type profile. So I'm interested to see what year 2 of Travis Hunter looks like on the defensive side of the ball. And I think it's good for him that he can just solely focus on the defense. I want to see this guy was a number 2 overall pick. Like, I want to see the talent on the football field. It'll be interesting to see what type of corner he is, because he's a guy that in college sometimes was exploited for being a little bit too small. He lost out on those 50-50 balls sometimes, and he made up for it making those acrobatic plays, making those plays in coverage. He's a great coverage guy. Can he be more and be a top-level cornerback is something I'm really curious about. So that's what I think about the Jaguars. That's why I have them at 10-7. This isn't a slide on Jacksonville at all. I think Jacksonville's going to be a good team, and I could see them winning a few more games. I just think in comparison to them and the Texans have a lot higher floor, and Jacksonville just has, again, going back to it, really, really tough start to the year. They're going to need to stay afloat. If they win 10 games to make the playoffs, I think that's seen as a win for Jacksonville too. So that's why I have them there at second in the division. On the Indianapolis Colts, I just see a lot of regression points from the Colts this year. And I only have them at 6-11. They went 8-9 last year. But I just don't really believe in a whole lot of what they're doing, kind of on either side of the ball, to be honest. And a lot of that stems from Daniel Jones. I don't have anything against Daniel Jones. He put them in a tough spot, quite honestly. And I don't envy the spot that they're in. He won a lot of games for them to start the season last year. He was playing at a genuinely an MVP level last season, and he ended up getting hurt, and that kind of sent them down a spiral where they ended up getting Phillip Rivers to start some games. They had Riley Leonard starting some games, and they were in a spot where they kind of had to bring Daniel Jones back. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong. He lost some games toward the end of it when he's kind of already banged up, battling an injury, we heard, but he did his job. I mean, this is a guy that's kind of a fringe NFL starter, borderline out of the league. He went and became the third string quarterback for the Vikings, and then he comes over to Indianapolis and he lights the world on fire. And he tears his Achilles in December, and he's already going to be back for the start of the year, which is kind of crazy that you're able to do that these days. But I just don't think that Daniel Jones is a high-level NFL quarterback, and I could be totally wrong about that, but one good half of a season isn't going to change my tone on Daniel Jones. I think that he's a guy that can come in and do this. He can come in a new situation and play well for a span of 6 to 8 weeks, but I don't think it's something that can consistently go for a full season and hold up in playoff games. So you saw it in times last year. The old Daniel Jones came out in that game against Pittsburgh. They lost through 3 picks. They lost to the Chiefs in the game where they just couldn't really make that last play to win the game. They lost to the Texans in a close one, and then that was his kind of the last full game. But I just won't think that. And there's nothing that can change my tone unless I see Daniel Jones change my mind. So that's why I think that he's the X factor on the offensive side of the ball. Is who's he going to be? This is still an offense that's going to rely on the run game. It's an offense that is it's run game reliant on at the receiver position. It's thin as well. I mean, they re-signed Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce hasn't played much, kind of all of training camp. But behind him, it's Josh Downs. That's kind of the only name I'm looking at here. Like that guy can impact. They have Tyler Warren, who was very, very good to start the season, and towards the end kind of just fell off. It was like Loveland definitely overtook him in the rookie tight end department to close out the season. I just don't think this is a very kind of great offense. I mean, it's very, very reliant on Jonathan Taylor, and Jonathan Taylor was the reason they won all those games to start the season. Jones played a part in it, but Jonathan Taylor playing at an MVP level was the reason that they were that good. And it's hard to rely on that happening again. I mean, obviously they have a good offensive line, but with running backs, you never really know if you can repeat such great performance like that 2 years in a row. And kind of the main reason I don't think they're that good is I think the defense is bad. I think this is a pretty bad Colts defense. I mean, it was last year. Just looking at points given up per game, they were 21st in the league, and I don't know if that they got much better. I mean, they lost Nick Cross, who was their safety and one of the best players on their entire defense, in my opinion. He's gone, and my X factor on the defense side of the ball is DeForest Buckner and Sauce Gardner staying on the field. Remember when they made that trade for Sauce Gardner? It was looked at as, wow, the Colts are kind of going for it. They gave up 2 picks, and they didn't win a game for a big number of weeks after that. Sauce got hurt, didn't play. He was barely on the field. So I'd say the Jets definitely won that trade. And this is a defense with not many, if at all, blue chippers on the defense side of the ball. They draft CJ Allen in the second round. He's going to go in right away and be their signal caller on the defensive end. That's a lot of pressure there, and they need Sauce Gardner to stay on the field, quite frankly. I mean, that's why it's my X factor. They don't have a whole lot of depth. This isn't a super great all-around defense. They need their corner that they traded a bunch of picks for to stay on the field. They need DeForest Buckner to stay on the field. It's the guy that's played 13 games last year. He needs to play all 17. Their 2 best guys on defense need to play. That's why I say that. That's my X factor, quite honestly, because it's not a very good defense, and that's why I don't think it's kind of going to hold up. This is a team that likes to play through their run game and doesn't have a good defense. I don't. That's not really a good combo, in my opinion. I get that you want to kind of limit the amount of possessions, I guess, when you don't have a great defense, but I just don't think that this is a recipe for a team that's going to add up as the season goes on. Quite honestly, I just don't think they're good enough. And I don't believe in Daniel Jones, and I don't believe in. I think Shane Steichen could be fired this year. He kind of bought himself another year with that great start to the season last year, and kind of the world of the what ifs. If Jones stayed healthy, who knows what could have happened. I don't think a whole lot would have changed. I mean, I think they might have won a game or two more and get bounced in the playoffs. So I just don't believe in this Colts team, quite honestly. They're not necessarily a fun team to watch either. I'm not looking forward to watching Colts games this year. That's why I have my 6-11. And I think if it's going to be a failure of a season to be a non-competitive football team. I don't think they're going to hang around. I don't think they're going to be in that wild card berth. I think they're going to be a low-level football team that's not going to sniff the playoffs. To a team I am excited to watch, though, a team I have at 4 wins, is the Tennessee Titans. This could be a fun team and a fun offense, quite honestly. I'm excited to watch the Titans. I like what they did on the offensive side of the ball, especially. This was a young quarterback in Cam Ward who was in a horrible position. He's in one of the worst positions in all of football last year. When I say that, I'm talking about the people around him. And they changed that for him. They drafted Carnell Tate at 4. They picked up Wan'Dale Robinson, who's a great wide receiver 2 to have. I like what they did to help surround their young quarterback, because the biggest thing you can do to stun a quarterback's development is have him in a bad situation around him. And they did what they could to change that. They still have Gunnar Helm, the young tight end, and they still have those young rookie receivers that they had last year in Ao Manor and DK. But those guys aren't receiver 1s. Those guys are very good complementary receiver 3s and 4s. And they still have Calvin Ridley. It's a sneaky, very good receiving core, to be honest. And they still have Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard. It's a good situation around. I'm not sure how good the offensive line is going to be, but they still have J.C. Latham at right tackle. It could be, I mean, probably not going to be a very good offensive line, but at least he has weapons to throw the ball to. I mean, that's what I'm looking forward to. And they have Brian Dable, who I think is a very, very underratedly good offensive coordinator. I'm excited to see what he does with Cam Ward. A lot of people are overreacting from Cam Ward's first preseason game. It wasn't great, but again, I'm not here to talk about preseason. That's not what I'm here to put a lot of stuff into. I don't really think it matters that much. If he comes out in week 1 or week 2 and has a stinker, then we'll talk about it. But it's his first preseason game in a new system. It's not the end of the world overall. So I'm excited to see what they do on the offensive side of the ball. That's why my X factor is Cam Ward. He has guys to throw to. He has weapons to throw to. Now you can kind of be more critical of him because you're going into year 2 and you do have people that are good NFL caliber players around you. You do have a young stud receiver in Carnell Tate that you guys can grow in your career together. So he's in a good spot. I'm excited that we can see Cam Ward with real dudes around him rather than him with a bunch of scrubs, quite honestly. On the defensive side of the ball, this is a bad defense. It's not. That's why I have them at 4 wins. I think it's an offense that can put up points and be in the top half of the league offensively. But the defense, I think, is very, very poor. They traded Devondre Sweat for Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson's my X factor on the defensive side of the ball. Robert Saleh's guy. Robert drafted him, grew with him in New York, and he wanted to get more of an athletic edge kind of type of guy rather than Devondre Sweat, the big run stuffing defensive tackle. And they draft Kendrick Falk to be on the other side defensive end. That's 2 of your best players on the entire defense are your 2 edges on the defensive side. So it's exciting there. I think an interesting factor when talking about the Titans is we saw what I think Robert Saleh was the right hire for the Titans for this exact reason. He is a guy that was not the best head coach the first time he was a head coach, but he had some things go against him. And we saw what Robert Saleh did last year with the 49ers. That was a 49ers defense that was banged up. They had the bad news Bears out there playing. And week in and week out, no matter who was playing, who was hurt, Robert Saleh found a way to get the most out of those guys. This is not going to be a very good Titans defense, but if you have a defense that doesn't have the most kind of even studs or blue chip guys or like NFL starters, honestly, Robert Saleh is the guy that I would want leading that defense. He's the guy that can turn rags to riches and make you be just kind of a league average defense. I think he could do that. And it's not on paper, it doesn't look pretty, but if I'm picking someone to turn a defense that's not good on paper to all right and hang around in games and be competitive and kind of maybe go up and fight for a wild card berth, I would like Robert Saleh to do that. So I really like the coaching staff that they put together, Brian Dable, him running the defense. I think that's 2 good minds running each side of the ball for the Tennessee Titans. And I think it could be a really, really fun year to watch them grow and watch the offense grow and have them fight around and maybe play spoiler at the end of the year. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but this is a team that could definitely mess with some people's playoff hopes at the end of the season and even be around that wild card berth in around mid-year, quite honestly. So I'm excited to watch the Titans this year. That's going to wrap up my AFC South preview. Overall, kind of a fun division. Besides the Colts, I'm not looking forward to watching the Colts, but I think the Titans are a team that can make some noise this year, and I'm looking forward to that. So we're going to move on to the AFC West at the end of this week or next. I'm moving this week, so I'm not sure if we're going to be able to crank out the AFC West preview before then, but if not, it'll be there Monday. We're going to finish out the AFC and then do some fun shows before the season actually starts. So thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, follow on all platforms, and I'll see you guys next time.